Welcome to the Best Sports Betting Podcast, where we'll talk about reviews, previews, tips, and all things betting related. Brought to you by bestsportsbetting.co.za. Now, on to our hosts.
Hi guys, welcome back to the Best Sports Betting Podcast. It's been a while. Simon, good to have you back. How's it going? How was your Christmas, New Year's, all of that jazz?
Yeah, thank you, Rob. It is good to be back. It's been 2 months. I hope all our listeners had a good festive season. I spent mine in New York, which was really, really cool.
Cold.
It was very cold. It was snowing heavily, so it was really awesome to have a proper white Christmas, which is kind of a fairy tale, which a lot of people don't get to experience. Was really cool. But I really hope to go back someday because we were there for a week and we were on the move 24/7. But we probably saw a fraction of that city.
Yeah.
It really is
so much to
see,
do and so much to see there.
So it was great. Very cold, but it was an awesome experience.
Okay, and I spent my New Year's in Germany. I left on Christmas Day, which is why there hasn't been much podcast going on. The site's been updated with lots of content. But I'm back, and the podcasts will hopefully continue as usual. Simon, let's dive right into it. Let's talk about the Premier League over the weekend. I had a bet on Arsenal. I got them drawn a bet. I got them in play at, I think, over even money. And I was happy in the 54th minute. And then 2-1 loss. Bit of a shocker there.
Yes. Yeah, I didn't actually see that game. The only EPL game I saw over the weekend was Liverpool Man City, which we can get to in a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't see that game, so I don't really have an opinion. Look, I don't like backing Arsenal away. A couple of seasons ago, they used to be one of those teams you should always just grind out the 1-2-0 wins away from home. But their defense is got a bit leaky since then, and I find them very hard to back away from home because you're always getting very short prices. I much prefer backing teams like Chelsea away from home.
In my defense, they were around even money, which is what was attractive to me. And
absolutely,
playing against Bournemouth, it's just I don't want to say it's a sure thing, obviously not. But I looked at some of the stats, some of the recent stats, and look, I didn't realize Sanchez wasn't going to play, which probably would have put me off. But quite an upset.
Yeah. Carry on. Sorry,
to be fair, having watched the game, it was the right result. Arsenal didn't deserve anything from that match. But straight into the Liverpool game, I had them double chance, even money, 9-10, around there. Absolute cracking price, cracking game. Probably the best game of the season so far.
Yeah, well, it ended 4-3 to Liverpool. I'm sure anyone who watched will know that, and it's quite incredible. I must say, Klopp he always gets his results against the big six, and I don't remember the exact number, but I read that now over the past 3 seasons they have by far the better record out of all the teams against the top six. He's obviously it's going to be quite an adjustment without Coutinho, who's obviously now finally going to Barcelona.
For a ridiculous amount of money.
Yeah, so that's the third biggest transfer of all time, money-wise. So it's going to be difficult to adjust, but I think that they have the players. I must say, I love this Liverpool team. I really do. I think that midfield is just so exciting to watch. I do think that after their little dip a little while ago, I think a lot of people are sort of underestimating them a bit. Look, we know Man City's won the Premier League, but I really think that they are absolute banker for top 4. They are going to be very good next season.
Absolute banker not to make top 4 now.
Could be, yeah.
You look at who they're competing with, and you just look at the caliber of I'm not going to really include City, but Chelsea, Spurs, Liverpool, United. I mean, they're just not up there. So it really is time for Wenger to go. Sanchez. The asking price for Sanchez, I think it was 35 million, which is pretty cheap considering the current transfer market. And looks like he's going to be moving to United.
Yes, no, that's true. Look, for some reason, whenever it's players moving to United, you find that the rumor mill seems to spit out more rubbish than usual. I did like Wenger's comment though when he got interviewed about the Coutinho move. So not the Coutinho move, the Sanchez move, and he kind of said, well, what would you do if you were in his position? And he just said, straight out, he was just like, well, I'll give 100% and play for the club that I'm currently playing for, and just sort of smirked, which I thought was actually quite cool.
Yeah, but I would. It's true, and it's very true. Just thinking about it, I do find it quite sad that these guys don't put in a shift. once that they know they're leaving.
No, absolutely. That's my gripe with him, and I think that's why Wenger actually has. I think he should go. Don't get me wrong, but I think that he has a right to be irritated with his behaviour, because to be honest, Sanchez is being an absolute brat. I mean, he said he wants to be the highest paid player in the Premier League. Blah blah blah. He really is so full of himself, and he deserves to get a bit of flack as far as I'm concerned.
And I will defend Wenger in that instance. But right, any other results catch your eye? I tipped Newcastle under 2.5 goals against Swansea. You got a bit lucky there with that last minute penalty. That early game penalty. Decision that probably should have been a penalty. But
there were two handballs actually in the weekend that were definite handballs that weren't given. I was quite surprised by the way Chelsea played, and it's going to go into my best bet later. I always love getting with Chelsea after a bad game, and they were terrible against Leicester. Leicester should have won that game 2-0. Yeah. Leicester were by far the better team. Vardy was looking as good as always, and they ended up at 0-0. And then Spurs smashed Everton 4-0 in London, and we're waiting for Man United to play Stoke this evening.
Oh, which I do have a bet for. And so what about the NFL, Simon? Have you been watching too much? I have to admit, I have not been watching too much. It's just been a bit difficult for me to watch, so, as in logistically. So I haven't been following it too closely. I have been following the playoff games. I did have a bet on the Steelers, but there was an accumulator, so I went out with Arsenal. But give us a quick update on the NFL.
Yeah, look, so it was the playoff weekend, which decides the 4 teams which go to the NFC and AFC championships. So for those who don't follow NFL closely, it's like the quarterfinals, if you want to call it that. And now we have the 4 final teams which will play to determine the Super Bowl, which is on the 5th of February. I was very happy for the Eagles because they managed to get past the Falcons without Carson Wentz, despite having a futures ticket on the Falcons, which is now dead. But I think it's great. I've been backing this team all season. And they went and beat the Falcons. They were home underdogs, which I don't think they should have been. So that was good. The Patriots smashed up the Titans. Look, the Titans didn't deserve to be there, so good riddance. I think that they were very lucky with turnovers, and they beat the Chiefs after the Chiefs threw away a 20-point lead in the wildcard weekend. So I just think that they shouldn't be there, and that's glad that they're gone. And then let's talk about the best game of the weekend, undoubtedly, which was the Steelers hosting the Jaguars. I also had a bet on the Steelers. That was my bet for the weekend. So I was unlucky to lose that one, but. It was an absolutely incredible game. I mean, 2 very strong defenses against one another, and there were 87 points. So it turned into a massive shootout, ended 45-42 to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I bet nobody obviously saw that one coming. These strong defenses, Steelers opened 7 points favorites then, ended up losing by 3. And then just quickly, the last game was the Minnesota Vikings hosting the Saints. I love this team. They're incredible. I think Mike Zimmer's an amazing. The Vikings. Okay. They've conceded 15.8 points per game, which is the best in any NFL team since 1970, which is quite incredible. This game was quite interesting because they were winning 17-0 at halftime, the Vikings were, and then the Saints came back, and they were leading by a single point, and it felt like the last 3 minutes took half an hour, as it sometimes does in the NFL with all the breaks. But basically, after the 2-minute warning, the Vikings came back.
2-minute warning, not the 2-minute morning.
The 2-minute warning. I'm still waking up. Yeah. After the 2-minute warning, the Vikings scored a touchdown and put them ahead again. So it was really, really close right until the end, and then the Vikings got away with it and actually covered the spread. So people who had Vikings tickets there must have been holding their breath big time. They ended up covering 5 points. Yeah.
And who's your pick for the Super Bowl? Is it just another Pats? Pats versus whoever comes out of the NFC.
Well, why don't I tell you the lines for the AFC and NFC Championship can maybe help you decide. So for the NFC and AFC Championship games on Sunday, the Vikings will face the Eagles in Philadelphia, which is the Eagles' home town, and they're 3.5 point underdogs. And then New England will host the Jaguars as 9-point favorites. So I haven't had enough time to kind of digest these lines to have an opinion as of yet. I think at first look, they look pretty much where they should be. I mean, look, obviously you got to understand when there's only 2 games to handicap in a weekend, these lines they're normally pretty sharp. Yeah. They're going to be very sharp lines. So, look, if it was 3 points, not 3.5 against the Eagles, I'd probably take the Vikings there. But I don't like the hook. I don't like the Eagles getting the hook in that game. And look, I mean, New England, you can't, you just never know what kind of number you can't lay with them, if you know what I mean. They could be any team by 20, 21, 28. So it's very tricky. But
I do think it's a bit high considering that they beat the Steelers on the road, you know. So if it's 9.5, I'd immediately just look at the plus 9.5 there, you know, just straight.
I'll say you definitely won't be the only person that'll take the Jaguars there. Definitely, I just find it very hard. I find it very hard to fade New England at any time.
Yes, definitely.
But I think if I would have to I'm gonna have a look at these lines and just think about it a bit more and see, look at injury reports. But I think at the moment I might even take quite a juiced +3 on the Vikings. And that would probably be my bet, but I'm probably going to get something like not even 8 to 10 on that. So I don't know. I might just leave it alone as well.
Okay, and then we've got the test match between South Africa and India. South Africa winning the first one at Newlands, and I have been following this quite closely. I've had quite a few in-play bets. Done pretty well on batsman overs. I took Kohli over 50.5 runs. For his first innings, which came in quite comfortably, and then I took I can't remember it was Viraj or India first innings. Yeah, Vijay. I took over 35.5, and he ended up 45. So I was quite happy with that. Unfortunately, I did lose all that money on the Arsenal game afterwards. But yeah, so what are your thoughts on how the series is shaping up?
Yeah, well, I mean, South Africa looked pretty good in the first test. They won by, obviously the test is on home soil. They won by 72 runs, and I was quite surprised that, I mean, Markram, Olga, and Amla all didn't come to the party, and we still won the test match, which I think is actually quite incredible, even though it's only one innings.
It's got a very deep batting tail, if you want to call it that.
We do. But when you lose those three, and they all went for, I think it was all under 10 runs or 15 runs or something. But I mean, Philander and Rabada really came to the party, and sure, their bowling saved the day. Especially Philander in the second innings, he picked up 6 wickets. It was 6 wickets for like 38 or something, which is really, really good stats, especially for a test match. So yeah, it's day 3 at the moment, and we are currently. So when I looked last, it was 60
at the moment. Yeah,
68 for 2. So we're leading by 70-something runs, which puts us in a decent position as favourites for the time being. But yeah, I mean, obviously it's still early days, but we're looking like we could take the second test too, which would be great.
Yeah, both Amla and Markram out, rather cheaply, 1 run each, both LBW. So hopefully we can keep the Villiers in there for a bit. But so look, there's not too much value backing South Africa. I've been actually backing India on the draw no bet because you're getting like 2 to 1 and whatnot, just value wise, and I think it's a bit overstated. But I did read a very interesting article about away test matches and how the team winning is generally the team at home, and how heavily favoured it is towards the home team, especially with the England-Australia Ashes that we've had, where Australia is completely dominated.
Are you talking in play odds now, Rob? Or
no, I'm talking pre-match.
Okay.
You look in play, you're going to get a lot higher, I think, or you're getting a lot of price variables. But just in general, the away side has struggled throughout history in Test match cricket. And
yes,
there were some interesting comments by Steve Smith saying, this could be the death of the format, just because the outcome is not decided, but it's generally known who should win, and generally that side does win the test series. Not necessarily, look, they will lose a match here and there, but the series wins generally go to the home side.
Yes, and you're absolutely right. That's so true. And I mean, that's obviously in the subcontinent as well. I mean, a lot of people, I used to think they kind of make a little bit too much of a big deal about the pitches and so on, but it really does make a huge difference. I mean, it's so hard to beat India in the subcontinent. It just really is.
Yeah.
That's the thing, they come here. And, that's where you can actually, I mean, obviously, look, I mean, bookmakers aren't stupid. It's built into the lines. Yeah. But sometimes, in fact, if we wallop India now, and then we go to India, we're probably going to get a slightly inflated price on India to beat South Africa because they've lost the series 3-0 or whatever. Let's just say that happened. Because it is so much harder. And also the coin toss is very important. Look at one-day cricket. I mean, on 90% of wickets, teams choose to bat first when they win the toss, and that can also make a huge difference. So
and I
yeah,
find South Africa to be a very solid. Sorry for interrupting, but a very solid side that bats well first and struggles to bat second in almost any situation. We're terrible chasers. So yeah. So that does weigh true with South Africa when with going back to what you mentioned about the toss.
Yeah, sometimes the pitch can really like change it. Sometimes it's just such an advantage to bat first on the pitch, and winning the coin toss can give you maybe an 8% edge, which can be huge in a match with two pretty evenly matched teams.
Definitely. So let's jump ahead to the week. Unless there's anything else that you'd like to reflect on the last month or so of sport.
Oh well, this is my favorite time of the year. It's Australian Open.
Yeah. Well, let's just go straight into that. So we've got an Australian Open betting tips page on BSB now, and it's sponsored by Bet Olim, so go check it out, guys. We'll be putting up tips every now and again there. Don't expect too many to come through, but there'll be enough for you to have a look and find a bet on. Who are you fancying here, Simon? It's early, but
Yeah, sure. Well, just to give a little bit of a background. I'm sure most of the listeners know, but I'm a huge tennis fan, and the Australian Open is the first of the Grand Slams. It's on hard court. In Melbourne, and it's medium fast hard court, which is, if you get into your tennis betting, is quite important. How fast the court is, especially how it's affected by the weather too. Australia can get very, very hot. Yesterday was our first day, which wasn't very hot, which really can play into the hands of players who prefer the medium as opposed to the fast court. As I said, first of two Grand Slams on hard court, the second being the US Open later in the year. Looking at the draws, look, the women's is even more open than it normally is. The women's draw is normally always more open than the men's, but this year, because Serena Williams is out, it's even more open. And also, not only Serena Williams is out, there's so many up and coming players who are really coming to their own now, who can threaten for the title. So in the ladies, let's start with the men's. Annie Murray is pulled out of the Oz Open, so there's serious injury doubts of Stan and Marin Cilic as well. So basically, you got Murray out, you got Stan Wawrinka and Marin Cilic like really not looking good, and then Milos Raonic is also struggling. He's struggling with an injury, and his form's just been terrible. So there's not too much time for a deep analysis, but I like Djokovic at 6-1, and I like Nick Kyrgios.
You're really opposing Federer there because he's the heavy favourite. So
yes. Absolutely. I mean, Nick Kyrgios, this guy just fascinates me. I mean, he's such a jackass. But he is absolute raw talent. I mean, this guy, if he wanted to be number one, he could be number one. It's that simple. It really is. He throws his hissy fits on the court, and he's open about, I didn't play well today because I actually spent my practice time playing basketball. He's that kind of dude. He really is a jackass. But I think he's got a great chance on home soil, and he is maturing a bit. He really is. He's starting to kind of focus a bit more. And he's actually decided he wants a coach. Can you believe that? He's top 20-year-old, doesn't have a coach, doesn't want one. Just crazy guy. I wouldn't put anyone. This actually made this note last night, and he was knocked out. But I quite like Kevin Anderson's chances at 66-1 as a layoff bet. But he actually got knocked out by an injured Edmund last night, which is not great. And then in the ladies, obviously with Serena out, it kind of opens it up a lot. But I like Angelique Kerber at 9-1. She won in Sydney last week, and obviously she's a former world number one, and she looks to be back into some form after a long slump. And the other pick I like in the ladies is Wozniacki at 14-1. Because she's fucking gorgeous, and
I'll take Andy Ivanovic any day. So.
And B, because she's climbed the ranks to number 2 seed now, and she looks ready to win the Grand Slam. She hasn't won one before, but she's another player. When she is in form, she is dynamite. And I just think with Williams out there, She really has a good chance. Just quickly, just talking about tennis betting, just a couple for people who are new to it or who may had a double but don't know much about it. Just a couple things what I really like about tennis betting. I just want to share with our listeners. It's a two-way market. Which means there's no draw. Now, although that factor is built into the match winner odds in tennis, it's really nice to get a break that goes your way sometimes. So sometimes your player will win a really close game or match that would in football, for instance, end up a draw and you would lose. So just the fact that those kind of breaks can go your way. Obviously, they can go against you too, but it really makes a huge difference in the long run. Another thing I love about betting on tennis is that it's much easier to handicap. You handicapping, there's one person to account for in terms of his or her form, her attitude, his attitude, etc. Team sports can be much trickier because there are more people, there are more variables involved. Tennis is a solo one-person sport. It's much easier to handicap. And then another thing I love about it, lastly, is just you can find stats in absolutely everything. And these stats are very straightforward and they are indicative of a player's performance. So if you look at break hold percentages, to win tennis matches, you have to hold your serve and you have to break serve. That's how you win games. You have to win more games than the other player, right? If you go into a match with a higher percentage ratio, the chances are you are going to win. So obviously, if you find that the odds that are posted don't reflect the probabilities, and if you want to know how to work out probabilities, there's some fantastic articles in Pinnacle and so on. If you find these odds don't reflect the probabilities that you work out from the percentages, then you can see value, and it's that simple. And obviously, this doesn't always go according to plan, but what I'm saying is the stats are much more indicative of the results than there are in other sports like football. So that's just a couple of reasons why I like tennis betting, and there's just some things to think about. Great.
And talk about Pinnacle. You said you had an article published by Pinnacle, one of your articles.
Yes, yeah, no, I'm very happy about that. So they just invite anyone to send articles to them. Obviously, their stuff is of a very high standard, and they're mostly the guys who write for them are in-house. I wrote an article for them on line movement. A lot to do with people banking on reverse line movements. So in other words, when they see that there's lots of money on one side, but the line moves in the opposite direction, and how that is a good or bad strategy to bet on. And obviously, basically the conclusion I come to in the article is that it's something to look at, but it shouldn't be a deciding factor in placing wagers. Okay. So that article will be published later this week. So I'll put it onto Twitter.
Yeah, we'll pop it onto the BSB site with a link, and you guys can go check it out.
Yeah.
Right, let's jump into some Premier League. I've got two picks for my fancies this week. Firstly, tonight we've got Manchester versus Stoke. Stoke are sitting 18th at the table. United sitting second. United are in good form, fairly decent form. I don't want to say they're in great form, but they're playing a Stoke side who struggles away from home against the big sides. Stoke lost 5-0 to Chelsea away from home recently. They lost 5-1 away from home to Tottenham. And I think they're going to be in for a similar kind of beating when they go to Old Trafford. So my fancy there's United -1, which you'll get at about 17-20. So that means they need to win by 2 goals or more. That would be my first pick. What do you have going there, Simon?
Okay, I've got 2 picks for the Premier League. As I mentioned just right at the beginning of the podcast, I love getting with Chelsea after a bad result. They always seem to bounce back really well. And as I said, I had a very lackluster performance against Leicester, where they were actually desperately lucky to get a point. They should have lost by more than 1 goal in that game. They faced Brighton on the south coast, away from home, and I like them -1 on the Asian handicap. So their match price is 1.44, but you can get at 4 to 5.
Which is pretty good value anyway. I was looking at that one, and I was quite shocked they were 1.4, almost 5 to 10.
Yeah, so look, I mean, I don't like backing those kind of prices, but basically, obviously with a -1 on the Asian handicap,
it's some value.
Yeah, sure. So -1 on the Asian handicap obviously means that if they win the game, you get your stake back, but if they win by more than a goal, more than 1 goal, then you'll win. And I just think that I can't see Chelsea. They're going to probably win this game 2 or 3-0 after that terrible performance against Leicester. Bournemouth have really struggled. Brighton have really struggled for goals. Obviously they're playing at home this week, but I saw that they went their 6th game in a row on the road without scoring a goal this weekend now.
That's crazy.
They really are dry at the moment, and I just think Chelsea have to bounce back. Obviously, look, as I said, Man City have won the Premier League, but they need to make sure that they're going to finish in the top four, and they can't put two back-to-back results, bad back-to-back results in a row. The other bit I like is over 2.5 goals in West Ham Bournemouth.
Okay.
West Ham had a really impressive 4-1 away win this weekend. I think they're looking really good under David Moyes, funny enough. Bournemouth just they tend to play tight against the big teams and loose against the teams around them, and they actually hold their defense quite nicely normally against the stronger teams. But this goals written all over to me, and you can get over 2.5 at 9 to 10. So that's the bet. That's the other bet I like there. So Chelsea -1 on the Asian handicap against Brighton. And West Ham Bournemouth over 2.5 at 9 to 10.
Okay, well, my other bet's going to be Manchester City versus Newcastle. And, I was just looking at some of the head-to-head stats, and City absolutely dominate this fixture, especially when playing at home. I think they've won, 9 of the last 10, and by winning, they've won very comfortably. I mean, the last 4 matches which they won were all ended 4-0 or more, so they won by 4 goals or more. And look, this is going back, quite to like 2013, that far. But this is a Man City side that's damn strong at the moment, and they're facing a Newcastle side that just, aren't fantastic, especially on the road. I mean, they lost to Chelsea. Yeah. Once again, it's they're losing to the big teams. They lost to Arsenal, which was a close game. Arsenal probably deserved to get a few more goals there, but they lost 3-1 to Chelsea, 4-1 to United. I don't see that changing when they travel to the Etihad. So, my call there is going to be City -1 or both teams to score no. So basically City to keep a clean sheet at 7 to 10. I think those are both fairly value bets. Look, your handicap is going to be a bit high, so it's going to be -2 you're going to have to back City on. But you'll be getting 12 to 10 on that. So
no, I like that too, Rob, definitely.
Yeah, so those are my picks for the Premier League. NFL, Simon, is there anything that you fancy?
Yeah, as I said, I need to kind of digest these lines a bit. They kind of, at first glance, look kind of where they should be. I'm not surprised. Obviously, there are 2 games to handicap. It's very important. The books will take billions and billions of dollars on this, so they're not gonna be out of line. As I said, the Vikings will face the Eagles in Philadelphia, and they're 3.5 point underdogs. So, as we've discussed in the pod before, it's very important. The numbers of 3 and 7 in American football are very important, because if you're a 3.5 point underdog, if you're backing the underdog, you're getting that hook. So in other words, if you're getting plus 3.5, you've got a much better chance of winning your bet than if you got plus 3. So the fact is, the Vikings, I feel, are better than 3.5 points better than the Eagles, but they are a very strong home team and not a great away team. So it's a tricky one. And then New England is 9-point favorites at home to the Jaguars. I mean, New England can cover this number easily in the first half, even if the Jaguars don't show up. But 9 points is a lot, and this is the second best defense in the NFL. So sure, 9 points seems a lot, but at the same time, 9 points isn't a lot. So I don't know where to go with that one. So I don't want to put out a pick, give out a pick for the sake of it. But if I can get the Vikings -3 instead of 3.5 at a slightly reduced price, I'll probably take that over anything else right now. So I like the Vikings over the Eagles, but I don't like laying 3.5. I'd rather lay 3 points there. So if I can get that moves to 3, I'll take it. If I can get maybe a slightly juiced 3, I'll take that as well.
Okay, well, I haven't looked too much into the games, but just looking off the bat, I like both sides on the plus. I like the Jags on the plus, and I like the Eagles on the plus. I just think those numbers are a bit too high. I would probably have the Eagles game as closer to a pick'em, just because of the home advantages. It's basically saying that at the moment the books are saying that the Vikes are 6.5 points better than the Eagles, which I don't quite think is true. I would say probably about 3 points, which is why I'd have it as a pick'em. But I just like that, like you said, the key number of 3.5 there is key for me. If it was 3, I'd probably stay away. But that 3.5 is very tempting. I'm not going to have them as my bet. These are just my thoughts on the upcoming playoffs. So Simon, time for best bets. Unless there's anything else you'd like to chat about before we head over to that.
No, that's it, Rob. I'm gonna stick to the Premier League, and this I've probably given out. I wouldn't I've probably given out this bet 3 times, but I like Chelsea -1 on the Asian handicap away to Brighton. And I always, as I said, I love backing them after a loss, or not a loss, but a bad performance. I mean, they were 1 to 4 favourites to beat Leicester at home on the weekend. So Chelsea -1 on the Asian handicap away to Brighton. So they win the game, stake back. If they win by more than 1 goal, you win the bet, and that's at odds of 4 to 5.
Okay, so I'm also going with my Asian handicap for City over Newcastle. You know, if you can get 1.5, 1.75, you know, depends if you're playing Asian or normal handicap, go for it. You know, I like anything almost up to about 2.5. I wouldn't take anything more than that. This could be a 3-0, and 3-1 is just going to destroy your bet. And if you're not too keen on that, then look at Manchester City to keep a clean sheet. 7 to 10 is a pretty decent price in my opinion, and Newcastle aren't going to score too many goals. So that's where my best bet's going this week. Take your pick, do your research, and then see if you agree with mine and Simon's. And guys, thanks for tuning in. Simon, thanks for joining us again.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. I'll look forward to next week.
And we'll see you next week. Cheers, guys.
Ciao.
Thank you for listening, and don't forget to visit our site, Facebook and Twitter pages. Let's go make some money.